Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harridge. Thank you so much for swinging back by. I am still in Austin at the NPLA meeting, and I talked to Jeff this morning. Jeff said, oh my gosh, you got to get this guy on the show. After a series of text messages and emails, I have Justin Fordham. Justin, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure to have me.
So, take 60 seconds. Tell the audience who you are and what you do.
So my name is Justin Fordham. I am in the 3DCP space. That stands for 3D construction printing. And I look to usher in the next iteration of real estate building for our lenders in our private community.
You're one of the few that didn't take 60 seconds. I like to start every episode with what I call the bottom line up front. So I'm in the Marine Corps. I used to brief generals, and they always taught us don't bury the lead, right? This isn't a normal presentation because if mortars start coming at the base or whatever, the briefing is over, and you need the general to know the most important things. Right. So with that in mind, I want to take up to 2 minutes, and if you'll just share with the listeners the most important things that you're seeing in today's market, things people should be focused on, thinking, avoiding, doing, pursuing, stopping, whatever. 2 minutes, the kind of the cliff notes of what we'll talk about for the next half hour. Good to go?
Sure. Good to go.
Take it away.
So if you're an investor in today's market, a couple of things that I would look out for just to be careful would be, one, the areas that you're looking to develop. You want to develop in areas that are underdeveloped. That's where your highest peak will be, as opposed to going to areas that are developed or overdeveloped. It kind of limits your appealability, if you will, to build homes in an area where there aren't. You're going to oversaturate that area. Another caveat that I would look into would be your lending parameters. Of course, you want to choose the right lender that would be the perfect fit for what you're trying to do. You don't want a fix and flip rate for a ground up construction loan, or obviously you may want that because that's lower than ground up. But for the most part, you want to try to partner with a lender that fits your box for what it is that you're trying to do. Another thing to look out for would be affordability. Obviously, if you're buying land, you want to try to buy it as cheap as you possibly can. So try to look at properties that are coming up for foreclosures or tax liens. Those are nice, easy ways to get into a property without having to pay that high initial upfront. So those are three things that I would look into. Another thing that I would look into as well is if you're going to an area that you haven't been or it's new to your investing parameters, I would look at the 5 to 10 year city map to see what things are coming to that market or that area, not next year, but 5 to 10 years from now. You don't want to invest in an area that 10 years from now will be zoned industrial, or you don't want to invest in an area that is, solely for multifamily, only come to find out that it would be transitioned into something else. So just be mindful of where you're investing, and not only for investing for tomorrow, but for 5, 10 years down the line.
So what you're saying is I probably shouldn't develop in downtown Austin, Texas.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that if you are developing in downtown Austin, Texas, you might want to be very careful in what it is that you're trying to do. I would try to talk to the people in the local municipality to see, what's downtown going to be transformed into. As we all know, 5 years from now, we didn't know that there was going to be this tremendous amount of growth in Austin that came about due to COVID. And at one point, you had 3,000 people a month moving into Austin, Texas. So at that point, you have to kind of facilitate people on the fly and build as you could. But relative to, if you're just going to invest in an area, you don't want to put up a McDonald's where they're going to build a prison 5 to 10 years down the line. So you want to be...
Yeah, guards got to eat.
This is true. Guards, inmate, everyone got to eat.
Visitors.
This is true.
Sell some ice cream on the way in. No,
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Nah, no qualms. But I say that to say you want to try to get an idea of where the city is going. And that's one metric that a lot of people don't use, but a lot of the big investors do. They look at what's coming 5 to 10 years down the line, and they plan and they build for that.
3DPC.
3DCP.
CP.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what it is.
So that is 3D construction printing.
Construction printing. So before the show, you said you print homes.
Yes. That sounds kind of crazy, right?
I think it's cool. A buddy of mine does it up by Dallas.
Okay.
And, I mean, we spent a day going around the projects, and it just wildly interesting to me. Lots of questions. My first is, how did you decide that's what you wanted to do?
That's a good question. So right when COVID happened, when everything stopped, at the time I was working for auction.com. And at that point in time, I was auctioning off properties, and there was a moratorium that was placed on that.
Yeah, they stopped that.
Yeah. So there was nothing we can do in that.
Hey, your job is
This is true. This is true. So we were going, throughout that whole duration, I was trying to figure out, how do I go back to the market in real estate a step ahead of everyone else? This was the first time that we saw the whole world pause. So with us going back to the race of things, everyone would have been going back at the same start. So with that being said, my main focus was, I never actually liked the time that it took for a home or a property, multifamily, whatever you have, to be built. I looked at it as, how do we automate this process and how do we streamline this along? With me doing so, my research brought me to the fact that we've been actually 3D printing homes since 1949. It's just that not a lot of people have known about it, and we hadn't really had that real technology to mainstream it and bring it to the forefront. But as of now, within the last 6 years or so, that technology has pretty much morphed, and it grows tremendously every year. So I got into 3D CP because I wanted to build homes more efficiently. I wanted to build them faster, and I wanted to try to build them as cheaply as we possibly could. As you know, right now, there's an affordability crisis where homes that, well, the word affordable is kind of out of the window. It's like whether you can attain a home or not, you know what I mean? So attainable living is kind of like where we are at right now relative to rates and all of these other factors that add in. So I wanted to come up with a way to come back to the market, particularly in the private lending space, so that way we can build homes that are more seismic proof, that are climate proof, fire retardant, pest retardant. That kind of helps everyone out in the space, because your lenders would be more inclined to lend. Obviously, insurance would be more than happy to give you insurance on that particular property, because you're mitigating your losses at a point where, a lot of the only things that you would have to replace in a 3D printed home would be a window or a door, or add more paint, So I just wanted to give something back to humanity that hadn't been here before. And I won't sit here and tell you that I was the one to pioneer that. I wish I was the one. But I did learn from a lot of other people in the space on how we would go about bringing this to fruition and to the market.
So I'm glad you ended there, because all I could think about while you continue to talk was 1949.
Yes,
No.
1949.
Who was printing houses in 1949?
So in 1949, there were 3 people that I have footage of. I don't have the names, but we have video footage of them actually printing a dome, and then also actually printing a square structure. With you being able to print, it gives you architectural freedom to have whatever design that you'd like to have. So yeah, it's started since 1949, and it's been being perfected over the last 10 years.
And what are the true advantages? Speed, cost, both?
Both. So you have speed, you have cost, you have it being climate proofed. So let's take, for instance, the homes in Hawaii that have burnt down. There was one home that was there that was built all out of concrete that stayed there. So if we were to have these homes built that particular way, that would have never happened, because it's fireproof.
Fire retardant.
Fire retardant. So
I used to be a firefighter. I know what happens when that stuff heats up and it pops.
Yes. So you pretty much want to be in a home where, all of us, we all live in homes, right? We all live in a box. We're going to eventually all end up in one, unfortunately. But we don't have to live that way. We can, live in a home that is a safe house for you. You want to know that termites aren't going to eat your floors from underneath you. You want to know that if a hurricane comes, that your home is still going to be there and that, your kids will be in a room with a roof over their head.
Is the roof concrete too?
So the roof can be concrete if you opt to do that, but I will say that it would be more expensive than your traditional roofing system. So as of right now, what we do is we erect and we build the interior, exterior walls for the property, and then we put on a traditional roof for you if that's what you want.
I asked because you said a roof over your head.
Yes.
It just sounded like, okay, well, that means that thing's going to be concrete too.
Yes, and we can print that for you. As of right now, we can print up to 4 stories. So
4 stories?
4 stories. Yep.
So how much faster?
So on average, it may take you like 4 to 8 months to build a 2-family home. We can erect that and have that done for you within 4 to 10 weeks, mainly because your interior, exterior walls will be put up within a week or 2. Framing, it will take you about a month and a half to do that, and then you have to wait for inspectors and everyone to come through to check and inspect that for you. But relative to the CAD drawing and the sketch that we have to build your actual property, the machine will actually be building along that toolpath the whole house for you, all of your interior, your interior, exterior walls. Your foundation can be 3D printed as well as the basements as well, if your area permits for that. But some of those things do take an additional cost because you're using a lot more concrete. So it may be a little different than what you would see in your traditional home. However, that 3D CP home will be way more structurally sound than your traditional home.
What about the plumbing?
Plumbing and electrical are all done in your traditional method. As a matter of fact, when we're printing the actual building, it takes into account where your electrical boxes are going to be and also where your plumbing is going to be. So while the machine is going along the tool path, it would stop and then it would restart where the electrical box would start and stop, and or the plumbing as well. And while you're doing that, once you've reached certain levels and you have a plumber or your electrician on site, they'll be able to do that while you're printing.
That's just wild.
Do you remember the Jetsons at all?
Yeah.
So Rosie the robot, I would think of it that way. Whenever she brought something to or invented something or made something, it came right out of her stomach per se. So that's pretty much where we are. We are in the future. We can print organs, we can print glass, we can print metal, wood as well. So the future is here now. It's just for us to optimize it, figure out a way to monetize it, and make it available for everyone.
So let's talk about supply and demand. So when you tell someone, look, it's a concrete house, do they say yay? Do they say nay? Is it confusing? Is it exciting? What are the customers? How do they react?
So for those who aren't forward thinking, it's kind of like, okay, well, what do you mean a whole concrete house and how are we going to 3D print it? It kind of doesn't make sense until you actually sit down with someone and you say, hey, look, what we're doing is we're using a machine to build your interior, exterior walls. We want to be able to have a free flow of designs. Typically on average, it's going to take you anywhere from 4 to 8 to 10 months for you to build a home. If you want, we can build that house for you right away. And going into what you said relative to the inventory, that's the problem that we're having right now. Our inventory is outdated, and then there's a huge shortage of new homes to come to the market. So the only way for us to build our way out of this problem is to do it more smarter, more efficiently. So those who are, tech savvy and know what's going on, they're like, hey, look, I want a 3D printed home. I want to be able to have designs and, free flowing structures within the home. And they're gung-ho about it. Right now, we're looking into a couple projects down in Cape Coral, also in Lake Worth, Texas as well. Lake Worth, Florida. So those who are in the know or educated on it, they want it and they want it right away. Others who aren't educated on it, they want to be educated on it, but there might be a little barrier for them to actually participate in. But for our new people who are in new construction, that's what they want, because you're pressed with trying to find the right workers that are going to be consistent, and you don't want any drawbacks. Obviously, in lending, you want to be able to lend the money out. You don't want to incur extra carrying costs that you don't need. You also don't want to buy extra material that you don't need.
Not at all.
So with this machinery, you're able to build down to the centimeter. So there's actual no waste relative to if you were to build traditionally. You have, your studs and, all these other things that you're cutting, and you see so many waste being thrown into the garbage that they're not repurposed. So those that are trying to find ways to build more efficiently, more quickly, they're ready to roll.
Where all are you doing this at?
So right now, Florida, we have another test site that we're going to be exploring in New Jersey. Texas is an option as well. But Florida has been like the bedrock for all of our opportunities.
Are the cities open to it, or like do they have to bring the entire code enforcement department out to sit there and scratch their head?
So those who aren't educated in the code enforcement arena, they kind of aren't scratching their heads. They just need to be brought up to speed on the new technology, because once they are actually brought up to speed and they understand how this works, it actually makes their job a lot more easier. Instead of you waiting 4 to 8 months or, whatever that time frame is to come out, I'm going to let the building inspector know that, hey, look, these walls will be up in about 3 to 4 weeks. I'm going to need you to come through and check it. When they do come through and do the inspection, we pretty much exceed the code. So we don't really have any mistakes within our design once it's in the CAD drawing and once the machine is putting it out.
So, okay, I'm taking a break, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to ask about errors.
Sure.
We'll take a quick break. Stick around. We are back. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. Get on the phone with the loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Harridge here with Justin. Justin, let's just dive right in. People are idiots. And I've built a lot of houses back since high school.
Mm-hmm.
My parents built houses. What happens if if the inspector comes in and says, that wall's not up to code? I mean, do you have to get a chop saw and cut the wall out?
So the specific saw that we would use would be a diamond cut, diamond tip encrusted saw. Yes, you would have to knock it down. However, once your plans are approved, there wouldn't be any reason for him to deny you that, because we're building according to the plans. And with the structural integrity of that, we actually exceed the building code. So unless for some reason
the machine shortcut,
if
someone showed up and started hitting buttons, why you weren't paying attention?
Unless that happened, which it kind of won't, then we'd have to take it down. But the fact that you're curing the wall and it's curing as it's being built, you'd see any mistakes that are there. So you'd be more inclined for you to fix it while you can versus knocking it down.
And you just have the machine run all night? I mean, how does this work?
So there's two styles of machines. So there's one that's mobile and it's small and it's compact. And then there's another one that you'd have to erect on the actual site. It's called the gantry setup. And with that being said, yes, you can run the machine throughout the entire night. You just have to wait. Well, obviously the machine is set in place so that way when you're printing per layer, the next layer that goes on, the under layer would be able to support the upper. So you'd be able to build, I would say, about a good 8 feet a day, if you will.
8 feet by 1 foot, 8 foot by 8 foot.
It would be 8 by 3.
8 by 3.
Yeah.
So about an 8 foot section, 3 foot wall.
Mm-hmm.
If you're building an 8 foot wall, you need 3 days to build an 8 foot wall.
Well, I mean, building 8 feet at a time, for that day. So you would want the machine to be running, you'd want to build up to a certain level, and you'd want to watch that to make sure that everything's fine. And then you'd want to go up above that. Yeah. So you're building incrementally, and it's not really a start stop, but you just want to watch what it is that you're doing while the machine can just go and print. You yourself, the human, that's why we always need a human person involved in this. So with that being said, while we're talking about bringing automation to homes, we are totally against ruling out having humans on the actual site. Right.
Like a superintendent.
Absolutely.
Because robot operator.
Right. Because the machine is just going to follow the commands that you give it. The machine's not going to think, whereas you, the human, would say, oh, no, that's not right. We need to stop it. We need to do something else. And there's also instances when, let's say, if you, you needed to change the holes where the actual concrete would be coming out. Well, maybe let's say there was an issue with the mixture, and for whatever reason, it didn't output that the concrete the right way. That's where the human error comes into. I'm sorry, the human side of things comes into play. Yes.
Okay, so this is probably just keep asking questions.
That's the way,
but. Is development? Are you doing infill building, or are you like doing whole subdivisions? What's that strategy look like?
So the strategy for me would be subdivisions. I'd like to get into a contiguous plot of land where we can just build homes right next to one another. That makes it a lot more easier, less on the transport of the actual machinery. However, there are other instances like in urban areas where, we're building in between, other structures and other homes. But if I had it my way, it'd be a flat contiguous build where we can just build subdivisions. Now, with that being said, you can build things outside of just homes. Like I can, build structures for your patio. I can build outdoor furniture. I can print, an island in the kitchen for you if you wanted to, as opposed to, your regular top. I can actually print that for you. Formwork is, you can pretty much X out formwork, if you will, because I can print, that for you. There's a lot that you can do outside of just the home. So like if we talked about towns and cities, you can, build infrastructure as well. Print sidewalks, if you will, curbs. There's so many different things that you can do with the machine. So it doesn't just limit you just to the home.
Does the machine like smooth the concrete out for you?
So yes, there are certain machines have those attachments where as it's being printed, they'll actually smooth the wall out for you. Or if you like that, rigid look, that linear structure type of look, you can leave that as well. Or I can take something as simple as RCN Capital and etch it into the wall, if you will.
Where are you getting lenders for this stuff?
So, funny you say that. So I will be the premier lender in the space relative to 3D printing, especially on the private side. I've been fortunate enough to have some great connections and some great mentors in the space that are going to lend on the properties for that. Speaking of which, Fannie Mae had just approved recently that 3D printed homes are no different from your traditional homes, and that they don't need to be checked in the box on the appraisal side of saying, hey, look, this is a 3D printed home. And that's mainly because Fannie Mae and all of the other organizations, HUD as well, have already come to the conclusion that this is the next generation of building, and these homes are way more structurally sound than your traditional.
Well, what if I want to throw someone through a wall?
Won't happen. Won't happen.
I'm just asking. I mean, my son really enjoys demo.
Okay.
Demo day when we go through these houses. What will remodeling be like? So, hey, look, I mean, if I'm remodeling a 3-2 ranch and I say, I want to open that wall, we can open the wall.
Absolutely.
With this, I'm going to have to get a diamond saw?
Yeah, or we can be more forward thinking. So let's say let's use your son for an example. Let's say you just became a grandfather and he has a new family and he wants to have a home built. And we know that that's going to be a growing family. In my mind, I would advise to only 3D print certain walls in certain areas. And then I would do the others. I would frame the others that would allow you to pretty much grow within the home. So let's say if you had a bedroom that was next to another room, obviously you have a growing family. You wouldn't want to 3D print that party wall. You would want to frame that wall because you might want to extend the bedroom out later, or you might want to, just have something else in there. So for a growing family, I wouldn't 3D print the whole entire house. Maybe I would just do the exterior walls, and maybe I would just traditionally frame the inside. And that's where another place where you can cut costs as well. So you don't necessarily have to 3D print the whole thing. You can add a mixture of both to help you both now and later in the future.
You could 3D print like the shell.
Yes.
The bunker.
Yes. I would highly recommend that.
3D print the bunker.
Yes.
Frame the interior.
Absolutely.
Hi. So you're going to be the premier lender in this space.
Yes.
I'm a guess. One of my next questions would be, well, then why are you at NPLA if you're a concrete developer? Or I'll have to wait 3DCP.
Yes.
Not concrete. All right. So you're developing. Tell me about the lending products. How's this going to work?
So this is going to work the same way your traditional ground up loan will, and there'll be no difference in between. The only difference would be that if you are to secure a loan through us, it'd be a way more quicker process than your traditional lender. And just going back to the question that you asked me, like, why am I at the MPLA? I'm there because there are a lot of lenders in the space in the ground up as well. And what we are seeing is that we need, infrastructure. We need new homes there. And there aren't any solutions. No one really came with any solutions for that. And I want it to be the solution for that. And with doing so, I can't do everything by myself. So it would be smart for me to partner with these other lenders that are in the space to say, hey, look, as opposed to you having your money out for 4 to 8 months or even a year even, if you were to partner with us and help us build, help support the next iteration of building, not only could we increase production, but we can actually keep your liquidity back out on the streets where you want it to be.
Right.
So I looked at it as a standpoint of how I can help them, and they look at it as a standpoint of helping me help other people become homeowners a lot quicker.
Is this a environmental play as well?
Yeah, I mean, from an ESG standpoint, I mean, we're green all around. Our homes.
We're gray.
Oh, great.
No, I'm sorry.
No problems. But yeah, for the most part, if you're for the fact of the matter is we're using our concrete structures, so we can retain heat a lot better. We can retain coolness a lot better. It's way more energy efficient than your traditional home. There aren't any cuts and creases as to where your cool or air or heat is going to leak out. So it's way more thermodynamic than your traditional home. So yeah, I mean there is a green play there, definitely.
Well, you're saving building materials.
Mm-hmm.
You're printing houses.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of windows do you use?
Traditional windows. Windows block, glass block. They're put in the same way. So windows, plumbing, your electrical, roofing, all of that is traditional. So we still need all of these practices and all of these people in the space to, continue to contribute.
Yeah.
We don't want to cut anyone out. What we're trying to do is build at a faster, more efficient pace and not put all the danger out on the workers that are actually doing the work. So as you said, you had family in construction. My family was in construction as well. And one of the things that I didn't want to do was the hard work, So from a nerd standpoint, I wanted to figure out how can we do this and have a machine do it and not have that offset on us. That way we live a lot longer. We're much more healthier. And that's what everybody really wants at the end of the day.
Amen. So, all right, you leave auction.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just read an article? Like what?
How did I get into?
Yeah, I mean, like there's this turning point there that I'm not picking up.
So I left auction, and with me leaving auction, it's funny. So when I left, I was actually at an MPLA event. So perfect place to leave. And with me being there, one of the founding members was like, hey, look, I think we need you in the space. Like, what are you into? And I talked to him about, my thoughts about 3D printing and stuff like that. And he asked me to join. And when he asked me to join, it's easy on my end because it was like, look, I think I have something here to give back to the community. And once he did, it's just been off and running ever since. I've been talking to all of the 3D printing manufacturers. These are the people who actually manufacture the machines, and talking to them, and not only myself, other people as well, with trying to normalize this and bringing it to market, to mainstream for everyone.
And I think you said earlier that you're a broker as
Yes.
well in this space,
Yes.
like for other type of loans.
Yes.
How did that come about? Was that something you did before auction?
Yeah, something I did before.
Oh.
Something I did before. So I've been in real estate the last 20 years, believe it or not. I started out in title. I went from title to loan processing, went from being a loan processor to being a realtor/investor. Then I actually ended up at auction afterwards. And so all my life I've pretty much been in lending. So dealing with people on the private end, I've always had those relationships. What I didn't understand was how the capital moved. And with me becoming an MPLA member, I was actually privy and educated on exactly how the capital moves from, your lenders through your secondary markets and, all of those things. So it was a very great educational process for me.
Watching money move is a fun thing.
Absolutely. Especially if you have a good idea of where it's going.
What's the price point of a house like this?
So on average, we try to come in at about at or anywhere from 10% off. So there's a 10% with it being cheaper. However, there are other instances where we do match, and then sometimes you may actually go a little bit over budget. But where we come out on top is that we are giving you a home that is semi-indestructible. So if you compare that to your traditional home, it's not going to last the same way that our product will.
Yeah, but are you talking about what you're selling them for or what you're building them for?
So sorry. So what I'm building them for, it would be 10% cheaper than your traditional build. But what you're selling them for, obviously, you're going to sell at market. And if you can make that same profit within the margin and sell it lower, then we would sell it lower. Our main target is affordability, obviously. So we want to deal with those who have a hard time, being able to purchase a home. But for those who don't have an issue with, going luxury, then obviously we'll meet them there as well.
So not factoring in the cost of land.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling you're not going to answer this. If I want to build a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath rent house, workforce housing, and I'm trying to really, say I want to build 100 of them and I'm going to, create a rental community. What's my cost per foot on the asset?
So your cost...
Ish. Ranges me. You don't.
Now, this is just your 3D print, or you want the finished number?
Finished number.
So finished number, you'd probably be coming in at anywhere from 140 to 165. Now, what's going to change that is your finished material.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we can add to that to bring that price up. But if you want to just keep it minimal, I would come in at a good 140 to 145.
Yeah. So that's very comparable with what it takes to build a stick-built house these days. And you've got a cool thing like I saw in the 60 Minutes. It was like curved walls.
Yes.
That's cool. And you said I can get a dome.
You can pretty much get whatever you want, so long as it's approved and you meet code and zoning says, hey, look, go for it. We can build you whatever you want.
I'm gonna print a house with a dome on it.
That'd be great.
We should do these for accessory dwelling units. Have you done any of those?
No, we haven't, and I'm glad that you brought that up because in California they just passed a law as to where you could build an accessory dwelling unit on your property, and then you can also sell that unit afterwards.
Yeah.
Before, that was never the case. And then also the homeowner would have had to live in that accessory dwelling unit. But that is a market that is untapped that we are going to tap. And that is.
See, I'm over here okay, for decades, people have been selling these bomb shelters and these tornado shelters. Let's just 3D print some home offices, little detached buildings in the back. Because one of my short-term rentals, I've got, there was an old, looked like a storage shed, honestly, but it had a slide, but they said that some guy used to cut air in there or something.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, this was right after COVID. Home offices were such a big thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put a little sidewalk out to it. We'll redo the foundation, deck it out, put a mini split. That house gets double the house next door that I have.
Really?
Because of that detached office.
Okay.
And literally on my way down here today, I was intellectually talking to myself, how do I build more ADUs? How do I, in my mind's okay, I'm going to ship this thing in. I know you can't concrete that thing. You weigh a lot.
Yeah. So there's two ways. You can build offsite, and then you can transport pieces like how you would a modular home. Yeah. Or you can just build it on site.
Yeah, but I love your idea, because if you're printing those walls and those joints, the air escape is just, it's not going to happen. You don't have pest penetration issues. A mouse can't even figure out how to get inside this.
Not at all.
Probably can't figure out how to get out either. So don't leave your doors open if you buy one of these.
Yes.
Get a snake in there, we run around.
Well, especially in Dallas.
I know. All right, so I'm beating this to a dead horse, but what's the name of your lending company?
So Fordham Enterprises is
Fordham Enterprises.
Yes.
All right, are you actively lending right now?
Yes, I am.
Where?
Nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yes.
So if there's someone out there that found some equipment or met a guy and they're like, oh, I need financing on this, they can call you right now and you can hook them up?
Absolutely. They can go to Fordham-Enterprises.com. They can give me a call or send me an email. I will look at their project and we will get them funded as soon as possible, provided they qualify.
We're going to talk more about that in a second, right after this break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-best.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Tim Herridge here with Justin Fordham. Justin, it's time for the Money Minute. The Money Minute is my favorite segment of the show. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are watching that, frankly, sometimes they get lost. And they look to us, those of us that maybe have 20 years worth of scalps on the wall or skins on the wall, however you want to call it. I want you to take up to 60 seconds. Imagine this is the only advice that the investor entrepreneur out there is going to get all month. Up to 60 seconds, the best stuff you got. Are you ready?
Ready.
Go.
So if I could go back in time, I would give the advice that I would give myself as a younger investor being in real estate would be to surround myself with people that are way smarter than you are, and to try to join an organization such as the NPLA to try to get, those that are way more versed than you are, try to soak up as much knowledge as they can so you can be as profitable or as successful as they are. I would also try my best to diversify your network to make sure that you are around people that have liquidity, provided that you don't have any. Sometimes there's a lot of opportunities that are around, but you may not have the liquidity to actually participate in that deal. Well, if you improve your network, chances are that you would have someone within your group that would be able to not only fund you, but may be able to point you in the right direction for what it is that you're trying to do. So if I had any advice, I would be as educated as I possibly could be on the actual project that you're trying to work on or what it is that you're trying to do.
Some of these rooms are powerful, aren't they?
Very, very powerful.
And I think people all too often are afraid to speak up, maybe afraid to introduce themselves to someone, or I'm not educated enough, I'm the wrong gender, I'm the wrong color, and I'll seem stupid, I'm a redneck, like whatever. And the only one losing is the one that's afraid to speak up. Isn't that true?
This is very, very true, and I'm glad that you brought up those points. So the first time that I actually gone to an MPLA meeting, there weren't too many people that look like me, but just because we didn't look alike.
You mean red jacket?
This is true. Just because people don't look like you doesn't mean that you don't share the same sentiments. I mean, my belief is that respect is non-negotiable, and if you give respect, you should receive respect. And I was very uncomfortable, but I had to learn that sometimes being uncomfortable is the new comfortable. That's the only way that you're actually going to be able to break out of any formity that you have. So yes, it was a bit intimidating at first for me to be the only African-American in a room and, walking in and talking about real estate from my standpoint. But little did I know I had a lot to offer. And these were some of the biggest people in the space. And all I did was walk up to them and say, hey, how are you doing? I didn't ask for money. and I asked, hey, how can I help you? And I just pretty much told them about what I did, and they in return told me about them. And then from there, you start with a relationship.
Right.
And that's what made everything easy for me. I just went at it as, just trying to form relationships. And sometimes it can be a bit intimidating. Like, sometimes you're on a call, you're looking at $5 billion on a call with, all of these industry heavyweights. But I've come to find out, fortunately enough for me, if you take time to get to know people, they'll also be interested in you. And you just never know where that opportunity or where that conversation is going to take you. So yes, sometimes the rooms can be intimidating, but being uncomfortable, you have to be comfortable with that. That's the only way you'll get change.
And 100% guarantee, if you don't have the conversation, we know exactly where it will go.
Yes, it will go nowhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
It was never had.
Right.
When you got here, John Beecham, he was the guest last week. He was leaving here. Just translation, we're recording these both on the same day. So I said guest last week because he's last week's episode. And this week is Justin's episode. But he's a guy, I've known him for over 10 years. Smartest human being, like just a genius.
Yes.
He can be intimidating. And I never forgot, I would be in our New York offices and he just starts talking 90 to nothing. I'd be like, stop, right? Like, they didn't teach me that in the Marine Corps. You're going to have to, say it another way. But, is that what you're saying? Like, just be you, be real?
Yeah, be you, be real. Let's take John Beecham, for example. He's what I call a gentle giant. He's one of those guys who sit heavily in our space. However, he speaks to you so candidly. He starts from infancy to delivery. He's actually my mentor. And just to go back a little, we'd started a mentorship program within the MPLA, and I had noticed that he wasn't on there. So I thought to myself, if I had the opportunity to have a mentor within this program, who would I pick? So I picked the person that I felt that I could learn the most from, that had the most to offer, that was the strongest in the space. And while I knew that would be intimidating, I knew that the end result, had he said yes, would make me a stronger person. So I nervously sent him an email just basically saying, hey, look, I appreciate what you do in the space. I've been watching you for a long time and I would love nothing more than to learn from you. He responded back in less than 20 minutes. My heart instantly just dropped. So fortunately enough, that was one of the times where I was uncomfortable and then I became comfortable. Not too many people would have approached him, but he's a very approachable person if you don't know him. And I've been learning atop his shoulders for the last 7 months. And it's really been a remarkable journey for me to not only learn professionally, but personally as well. And he went from someone I had met at a conference to being a trusted business advisor and also a friend. And that came out of, me stepping out of my comfort zone and just knowing that acting somebody like that would change your life. And here I am.
Beach is good people, and if there's a way to figure out a money problem, that dude's got the answer.
He knows the margin.
You may not like the answer, but he's going to give you the answer.
Yeah, he's going to give you the answer. He's going to give you the truth, and that's what I love about him. Cool guy.
So title, real estate, auction, printing, loans. I love that you became the expert in the printing so you could do the loans.
Yes.
On John's episode, he said he tells his boys, you don't have to be the best at what I do. You just have to pick something and be the best at it.
Absolutely.
But he probably tells you that too, does he?
Yes, he does. Every chance I get to learn from him, I take full advantage of it because you're learning from a great,
So Justin, where does this go from here? Do you start a big, massive, well, you already started, do you grow to a multi-billion-dollar a year origination company? Do you go all in on developing on your own? What's the future like? What's the plan?
So the plan for me is a little bit of a hybrid of both. I want to blend in this space, and then I also want to build and develop my own property, subdivision, and things of that nature. So while I'm offering the opportunity on the liquidity side, I'm also wanting to be a part of the transformation on the building side. So I want to find a nice relationship right in between where people that are coming in that are new builders have the liquidity and they have a lender that knows, what it is that they're trying to do and help to accommodate them. And then also on the inventory shortage, and I want to be able to build the next generation of homes. And I don't want them to look like the homes from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We're in 2020 plus, and we need to, develop homes that are reflective as such.
I completely agree. So you came here, you had no idea we were doing this podcast until like an hour and a half ago when Jeff said, you're doing it?
Pretty much.
Or now he said, please do it, or I'll get you on or something. I don't know. I got the text message over there. We're going to run out of time soon. Is there anything we haven't covered or that you would like to share, or maybe something that you think would benefit the audience? Our purpose here is every week I try to just help investors make more money.
Mm-hmm. So I think we covered all of the caveats relative to 3D printing and development. I think the real takeaway for this would be just to be mindful of what's going on in the market right now. Obviously, the higher the rates, the more pushback that you'll get to develop and or lend as lending is becoming more stringent. I would just be mindful and be forward thinking of where you're investing your capital. That's very important. And with that being said, we pretty much play that rate game. So as the rates go lower, that's when we get to play more. When the rates go higher, that's when we go a little dormant for the most part. So I would advise my investors to be as forward thinking as possible, gather as much information on the deals that you have that you can, and be your own personal underwriter, because whatever you miss, that lender is going to pick up.
Yeah, and I think especially on that, I mean, if you decide to 3D print some of these houses like he's talking about, and then you come to him or someone like him for a loan, or we'll just say you go to him for a loan, I mean, be honest, right? Like if it's your first one, say it's your first one. And I always tell my team and all my companies is, if you find yourself redoing math to make something work, you're just lying.
This is true.
I mean, and it's probably going to end up working out the way it penciled out the first time, and you're just going to spend 6 months fighting the obvious.
This is true.
Listen to Captain Obvious. That's my message today. Listen to Captain Obvious.
This is true.
All right, Justin, parting thoughts or parting shots?
Parting shots. No shots. But parting thoughts, I'd like to thank Jeff for giving me an opportunity to discuss my business as well. Thank you as well for having me on. And any new loans that are coming in, we want to have RCN Capital be a part of this next iteration of building. So,
well, our CFO, you're going to have to talk him into it.
Yeah, well, just, nice drink and a great party. We'll work it out.
And an Irish goodbye.
This is true.
What I think, to me, the most powerful thing is a couple of years ago, you started coming here and you felt a little alone, maybe the odd guy out.
I wouldn't say the odd guy out. It was just a new space for me. Yeah. And with that led to, the uncomfortableness, but that uncomfortableness wasn't a bad thing. It was actually a good thing, to see.
I guess you could have let yourself feel that way.
Yes, I could have.
Because you looked around, you noticed you're the only African-American man there.
Right.
And you're thinking, okay, I don't fit in. You could have let that take over. But the entrepreneur in you, the 20-year vet, is like, no, I belong here.
Absolutely.
And you took those steps forward, and now you're having, weekly calls with a guy that's done billions of dollars.
Yes.
Because you took that step. You believed in yourself. You did not. My wife says this to me all the time. You didn't argue for your limitations.
Right.
You didn't look for a reason that it wasn't going to work and go back to your comfort zone. You stretched. You said you were comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
That's the title of this episode. We're going to all be comfortable being uncomfortable.
This is true. Well, what I would say is this. We have no control over how we're born. We don't get to choose our color. None of that. However, we do have full control and autonomy of how we treat people. And if you treat people the right way, then there's good blessings that will come back to you. So I didn't go into a room, looking at everyone else as a color. I just noticed that I wasn't that, and I have no control over that. So I just led forward with wanting to help others, being respectful to others, lending my industry knowledge to others. And that afforded me an opportunity to talk to people that I would that I used to just see on the computer, now I can give them a call on a weekly or daily basis. So,
Or drop a text.
that too, or drop a text.
So look, something you just said, I could start rambling on this forever, and I won't, but there's a country song. It's I believe most people are good.
Yes.
And that's just kind of how I operate my life too. Just I believe that most people are going to be nice people, and they're going to be friendly people. And little secret hack for everyone out there, most people like to help you because it's like bragging on what they know.
Yes.
So if you're thinking, oh, that guy or gal won't help me, the odds are that if you read, the book, How to Win Friends and Influence.
Yes.
Most people, they don't care what you're thinking about. They only care what they're thinking about.
Yes.
And their favorite topic is them, right? So if you ask someone for their advice, like, you're really just activating their own selfishness.
Yes.
To say John's selfish. It's a human trait.
Yes.
Can you help me? Yes, I can.
Yes.
I'm Super Tim. I'm here to help. So that's excellent. Man, I appreciate you coming over to the last
Oh, it's a pleasure. No problem.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this,
Likewise.
but we are out of time.
No problem.
That's it for this week, folks. Thanks for stopping back by. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.